Thank you, Eric. November 15th, special meeting for 2024 budget. Could you please stand for pledge allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Moment of silence for prisoners of war and men and women missing in action. Thank you. I get a roll call, Secretary Billups.
Councilman Heyman.
Here.
Councilor Blackwell is on her way. Stephanie's talking to her. Councilor Andrusco.
Here.
Councilor Sadiq. He's probably on his way as well. Councilor Faralia. Here. Councilor Silva. Is he on Zoom?
No, he's on his way.
Okay. And President Burke.
Here.
Secretary Billups is here. Councilor Wagner.
Here.
Vice President Tunis is here.
Here.
You. Councilor Wentz.
Here.
I don't see any officers in the back, but. And we have our Honorable Mayor Keffer, we have Treasurer Heyman, and we have Alexis, and of course, we have the residents of Upper Darby. Hi, guys.
Thank you, Secretary Billups. 3.0 rules of meeting decorum, Upper Darby residents.
Oh, and Diane, sorry.
I'm sorry.
And Allison. Didn't mean to forget you guys.
Upper Darby residents have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. You know what? Upper Darby's, that doesn't apply. You're right. We'll just go to 4.0, Finance and Appropriation Committee. Chairwoman, Council Wentz.
Yep.
Yep. go ahead. She'll call me.
Yeah, so
Oh,
you need to call the meeting to order.
yeah. All right. We'll call the meeting to order. There will be a public hearing on purpose of the review of the budget for the fiscal year of 2024.
So the Finance Committee is Councilman Silva, Councilwoman Wagner, Councilman Andrusco. At this point in time, I'd like to open the public hearing on the second public hearing on the mayor's budget 2024 budget.
So if anybody wants to come up
Come up to the
to
podium,
the podium, and speak.
state your name and your address before you start speaking.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arun Duran.
Wait, turn the mic on. Hit the button. Yeah, there you go.
Good? Hi. Hey, everybody. My name is Arun Duran. I'm in 1005 Drexel Avenue, Drexel Hill. Thank you for letting me speak. I wanted to discuss in regards to the EIT tax that you guys want to implement. I found out about it this morning and kind of wanted to have an open discussion about this and just the strategy behind it. So I was doing a lot of research this morning in regards to that and found a lot of cons when it comes to it. You know, the financial burden on residents. We have Bidenomics going on, high inflation, and sadly, we might enter World War III. Adding an extra tax like this will make it a lot worse when a lot of my fellow residents are living paycheck to paycheck. Has that been brought into consideration when implementing this extra 1 or 2%, whatever it may be?
Yes, so the goal of implementing the EIT is to diversify our tax revenues and not just to rely on property taxes. Having the EIT would include freezing the property taxes at the level that they're at now. And I also live paycheck to paycheck. So, and I'm not just putting this out there, oh, you take care of it, you pay it. I'm paying it as well. I think this is a good way to keep people, especially seniors, in their homes. It's not all income that's taxed. It's if you're working, you get taxed. You don't get taxed on your pension. You don't get taxed on Social Security. And if you're unemployed, you're not getting taxed on your unemployment. So it's been recommended to us several times over the last few years, because in general, we're running a budget deficit. So I welcome all questions and concerns, right? Just to let you know too, we're having a town hall specifically on the EIT tomorrow at 6.
Oh, okay.
So if there's any things that are brought up, it was part of the press release. If there's anything that's been brought up that I can't answer today, I will be happy to do that
Okay.
as well. So I look at this as another opportunity for us to get the word out on this.
I appreciate
Initiative.
it. You brought up in regards to property taxes. I looked up at census.com, Drexel Hill, this area, average property taxes are $8,700, $8,700, which is 14% of the median income, which is $63K. Have you calculated where high-earning individuals will end up moving? More people will not be wanting to live here, which will end up dropping property taxes, and more money will not be going to the schools and other things to fund this.
So let me clarify a little bit on that. So if you live here and you work in Philadelphia,
I work here.
I'm just,
Oh, okay.
if anybody lives here and works in Philadelphia, their paychecks will not be affected at all. Many people that live here work in other municipalities that do have an earned income tax, like Media, Chester City, Aston, Fulcroft, Sharon Hill, Lansdowne. So if you work in any of those places and live here, your 1% is already going to those municipalities. And what the EIT would do is bring that money back to Upper Darby.
Okay. And I looked and saw that the SNP grant is dedicated for up to $200,000. We would have to pay 50% as a municipality, and that's to help pretty much be strategic on the financial planning and future of the community. Am I right?
Can you say that again? I didn't.
The grant that you guys are going after, where this 1% was recommended to be added, that was for financial planning pretty much for the municipality and the city.
For the next 5 years.
Yeah. Have you guys looked at alternative revenue sources instead of that 1%?
So what we have done over the last 4 years is implement the realty transfer tax, which we hadn't been getting before. So that's one initiative. We've also, we're working with firms to help us with our delinquent collections for mercantile and business privilege taxes and the municipal taxes as well. There was already, those services were already in place before my administration started for sewer and trash fees.
Okay.
And then part of some of the things that council are going to have the opportunity to vote on tonight address our permit fees, parking fees, and things like that. So we are trying to stay on top of what the costs are, because the permit fees aren't really, they're not supposed to generate revenue so much as cover costs. So we've been trying, this is like a multi-pronged approach, I think, to
Has there been
long-term
any
planning.
strategies to bring, America's foundation is on the mom and pops of businesses and business owners, not those huge corporations. Has there been any tax incentives or, even collaboration with other municipalities on what they're doing, just so we can improve as well? Any kind of collaboration on things like that to build the economy?
Well, the one initiative we did complete in the last 4 years was a facade improvement program we had a pilot program with the unit block of Garrett Road. And the response was really good, but it took about 1.5 years to actually get it done. So tax incentives for businesses, that would be something I could maybe answer better tomorrow. I'm not sure the way taxes work is you're not supposed to single out anybody.
Yeah.
Right, so, which is why we have a $100 rebate for income qualified people for the trash fee. Right, we can do that. We can specify a certain group that way. The EIT budget also includes an expansion or extension of that rebate towards the sewer fees for the same people that are qualified for the trash rebate. And we're also bringing in disabled veterans who already qualify as tax exempt, so they don't pay municipal taxes. They will also qualify to get the $100 rebate for sewer fees and $100 rebate for trash fees. And those have been calculated and included in what I would call the EIT budget.
Okay. My last question is, in regards to ARPA funds, we got $10 million on that. Is there, anything online that states, hey, how those funds were being utilized where this could have been avoided? And why wasn't this in a ballot where the citizens could vote for it?
Well, I'm sorry, what was the 10 million?
ARPA funds?
Well, yes, what about them?
How was that utilized? Because Upper Darby got 10 million. Could that have been used in any ways where?
41 million.
How much was it?
41 million.
Oh, 41, I apologize. How, could that have been utilized in any way where the citizens wouldn't have to be affected by something like this? Like, how
So,
is that budget
Well,
broken
for
down?
instance, last year, we did use 2.5 million of the ARPA money to help offset the, we had, I think it was 2.7% tax increase, property tax increase last year. It would have been closer to 5 or over 5 if we didn't use the ARPA money. We also used it one other time for, it was in 2022, in February, we used it to cover general operating costs. So we have used it to help out with the budget and the increases and trying to buttress them. But, I mean, that's an option, is to use it all for revenue replacement, but at some point it will, in the next 2 years, it's got to be spent by the end of 2026. So it's sort of a shot in the arm and not really part of a long-term program for Upper Darby.
Okay, that's all the questions.
And I'll
I have.
find out about the tax incentives for small businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just drive and get more people to come into the community and, you know, build careers and get more people to move the rotation of the dollar within the community. Because you're going to see everybody going to different areas and spending that money. Why not just provide it back into the city and our community? Because if you guys add this 1%, people who do make more, they like to donate that extra money who are high earners to our community. If you take that out, that's going to be another thing where people aren't going to want to donate or give anything because that's
Well,
extra money
the
out of
EIT
pocket.
isn't going to affect everybody in the same way.
I
Like,
know, but I'm just saying in
Yeah.
general, because the other question I had was, why wasn't this in a ballot where we, the people, could vote for it?
I guess it's not a requirement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Becky Duggan, 129 North Panic Avenue. I'd just like a little clarity. So there was something out earlier today that said there was a town hall on the 29th to talk about the EIT, and then it switched to saying that there was one tonight at 6 o'clock, and now it's switched to tomorrow. Is there really going to be one tomorrow?
There's one tomorrow as part of the press release that went out a couple days ago. Yes.
Well, yeah, but the thing, notice on the website said the 29th earlier, and then it said the 15th, and now it says the 16th.
On the 29th, that's when the EIT ordinance will go up for a council vote.
That's when it's going to go for a vote.
That's
So
the
there's no
29th.
town hall the 29th, there's no, about that.
There's always public forum before.
I know, but yeah.
Before a vote. So, and tomorrow night, we're having,
But it's really going to go tomorrow night. It's not going to change again.
yes, sometimes there's mistakes made with however the
Okay. That's
website
because
is being
people come out
updated.
special for these things, and, you know,
We can talk about the EIT, that's fine. I mean, I think this is another opportunity to talk about it.
Then I say no.
Okay.
Wait, can we just,
Detail budget going to come out.
It should be, I think that question is, I can't read your lips from here. By the end of the week, okay.
Okay.
And what time is your meeting tomorrow?
6 o'clock.
All right, good evening, John Bizzari, 353 Kirks Lane. So my first comment is, why are we even bothering today if we're waiting on additional information? Because this coming out today does me no good based on what I've been doing to collect my thoughts for tonight's meeting. When I was looking at what was published online on the calendar, as well as what was presented last meeting with regards to the proposed budget at that time, and then looking at the 9:30 actuals, there was a lot of disparity among some of the figures there. And I don't know if the movement was due to, or if the changes were due to line items being moved to different segments. But for example, professional services for L&I. On the 7/12 detailed report that we received, it said there was 70,662 spent year-to-date. Yet on the 9/30 detail that was published on the website, it only shows actual spend of 20,110. So that difference of 50,000, where did that go? Where was it moved to?
I think we're going to have our finance director answer these questions. So in general, this is what I'll say about the the budgets, right? The budget that's been presented, that was presented and talked about at the last budget hearing is intact. With the EIT, we want to fund 5 new police officers, communications director, to go to your point about the information on the website and Facebook, the official Township Facebook page, finance director, and a couple other positions. So any questions you have about what has been presented already are still valid to ask, is what I'm saying.
Okay, but if the detail report isn't coming out until the end of the week, and you're having another meeting tomorrow for the press, and the 29th meeting is strictly on the ordinance for passing this, there is no time or opportunity to formulate additional questions to have answered. It's such short notice. This whole EIT thing should have been started earlier in the year and really thought out. But I want to continue because dues and subscriptions for vehicle maintenance, again, on 7/12 showed a negative 50,000, which I'm assuming that is an income or something coming back in because it's a negative. Yet 9/30, it shows actual spend of 500. Again, disparity on these two reports, and can't find where that difference went and what it was for. Professional services for vehicle maintenance showed 42,230 spend as of 7/12, and on 9/30, it shows a spend of 29,818. Again, where did that difference go? Then another question is cable television franchise revenue. In 9 months, as of 9/30, it says we've collected 503,273 in revenue against a budget of 1,005,000 for 2023. So in the next 3 months, where's 500,000 coming from? How are we getting 500,000 in 3 months if we only got 503 in 9 months?
So the cable franchise fees
Yeah,
are a little bit tricky because less and less people are using cable. So it's hard to guesstimate exactly how much money is going to come in. We do our best guess for the budget, but the payments come in quarterly.
Yeah.
So every quarter.
quarterly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that can explain some
So-
of it. I don't know.
That's half of, yeah, we just received the third quarter, like, we're starting to get the third quarter payments this week, so.
Okay, so the 9/30 isn't third quarter stuff, it's the first half of the year. As of 9/30,
first
that
and
As of
second.
9/30, what we received.
was for
right.
the first half of the year. January
Those are
through
actual numbers that we received, but the company is paying us quarterly.
Right.
Right.
So
So that will be,
third quarter you'll get now and then,
right.
okay. And this is just small, minute, because it just irks me that we're not ticking and tying our numbers together. Hold on. Police and fire for 2024 budget, on the detail where the category is, and then there's subcategories under it, not the full line item detail. It said police was $33,232,395. Fire was being budgeted for $16,204,386, totaling $49,436,7081. Yet on the summary document that was posted in the calendar, that line item says $49,436,780. It's a difference of $1. It's minimal, but on both documents, the revenue and the expenses tie. So where's that difference? And similarly, same dollar difference for the category of department other. All those departments that make up that category is off by $1. And I'm not sure how it's ticking and tying that it's still balancing. And then I just want to comment on EIT. At first, I thought I was a proponent of EIT. because of the fact that, there would be no real estate increase. We would get some police officers that we should get anyway without EIT. But then when I look at what I pay in municipality taxes to Upper Darby versus what I'm going to pay in EIT, I am paying more, over 100% more of what I pay in my real estate taxes. So I'd rather get a $70 or $140 increase in my real estate tax than a $2,100 out-of-pocket expense to my bottom line. My wallet is not the township's wallet, and we're getting hit by the school district for fiscal irresponsibility. We're getting hit by the county for fiscal irresponsibility, and now we're going to get hit by the township for fiscal irresponsibility. Not to mention the sewer tax and the trash tax going up again for how many years? It's got to stop. It has to stop. And the EIT is not something that I am a proponent of. I don't care. I do care about the safety of this township, but those officers should be in place. It shouldn't be a bargaining chip. We shouldn't be bargaining for the safety of our public to gain money for the township that is going to put a burden on other people. My sign's going to go up, and I'm going to move out of this township.
Joanne Namavong, 133 North Pennock. I thought I would go back and read the town hall thing that fella presented a while back. And he was saying that, well, first, one of the things he wrote was, the township government should provide world-class municipal services to help make Upper Darby a more attractive place to live, work, and visit. I don't see anything world-class in this township at all. What I see is dirt, trash, crime. I was actually, this is not exactly budget, but it's related, walking on the median in Westchester Pike. I was shocked at the trash that's there, and nobody picks it up. So like, I see in your paper that can I have that paper, the new one? That you are allocating a little bit more for public or for the trash collection. But what I see in your new budget in this very general thing is what you're proposing is $7 million for reserve. I understand that we've overspent the budget many times over the last several years, but to put in 1% earned income tax is not the way to do it. I want to read something that somebody posted on Facebook today. I know I have as much time as I want. Sorry. This is what someone wrote on Facebook, and I think it echoes a lot of people's thoughts. Once this passes, it is here to stay. And if the rate rises over the next few years, 1.5%, 2%, it will put many of us in a tough financial position. Actually, 1% will put us in a very tough position. If we are taxed on our income, it will discourage strong earners to buy in our neighborhood, making our homes attractive only to lower income households. This will hurt our home values. For those who are close to retirement, including me, they have paid high real estate taxes all these years and now will pay those plus a tax on their well-earned years of experience income, which will hugely impact family budgets. Most families in the higher income position are professionals in the 45 to 65 age range who are also paying for high school and college tuition without any financial assistance because we don't qualify. This seems targeted as that group will be carrying the greatest burden. And so the gentleman that presented said that he was expecting to bring in $18.9 million on the first full year, and 9.4 if we have to split it with the school district, which if we have to split it with the school district, that would be pretty bad. As John said, I'll put a sign up too, because other than I have to get my daughter out to Westchester University, I can get her there from Coatesville or from Chester County somewhere. And yes, they have earned income tax there, but their real estate taxes are not what ours are. We have one of the highest real estate taxes anywhere close to here. When the earned income tax was put in place, when it was enacted by Pennsylvania, the purpose was to replace or reduce other taxes, to shift the burden. Now, what you're doing is just adding to the burden. You're adding to everyone's burden. Yes, senior citizens won't pay on Social Security, but they can't make it on Social Security, so they're going to pay it on their part-time job. You're hurting everybody. And I don't think you need five officers. We were owed 5 officers already. If you're going to do this, we need at least 10 officers, not 5 officers. Actually, 15 officers. Do 15, and then maybe some of us will be willing to pay it, because it's not safe to walk in this township. Once it hit, now 5 o'clock hits, we got to stay home because it's not safe here. Do something about the crime. Don't keep asking us for more money. Thank you.
John DeMasi, 706 Standridge Road. Considering this earned income tax, I'd like you to put yourself in the place of someone that's making $15 an hour. And I'm honestly asking all of you who are supporting this, think right now of someone making $15, $16, $17 an hour. They've seen their rent go up double digits. They've seen their credit card bills go up 6%, 7% in interest a year or more. They are not just getting a new raise just because all these things are going up. And you are going into their wallet and you are saying, give us 1% more. It doesn't sound like a lot, but to someone that's making $30,000 a year, after they see all their deductions, after they see all their taxes come out, you're now saying, give us another $300. You're barely making ends meet. Is it going to affect me and my family? Yes. Are we looking to move? Yes. Do we have that ability? Yes. But if you are someone making $15, $16, $17 an hour, the majority of the people in this neighborhood, in Stonehurst, in your neighborhood, that 1% is going to be on top of all the other bills that have gone up that they cannot meet. So I strongly encourage you, find other ways to cut, to come up with the revenue. We have seen disastrous spending. I don't know what the community center, where that money went. The parking, that's a disaster. That was all money that could have been used to offset what you are asking on this earned income tax. This is going to definitely hurt the people that work day to day. They live paycheck to paycheck, and you're saying we can do better with your money to protect you, which we should have been doing all along. There's an increase in the solicitor's budget. The only person that is getting richer by default in this township is the solicitor. He has not stopped any of the scandals. He has not prevented any of the lawsuits, and you want to pay him more while taking more from the people in this neighborhood. He would have to go to, I think I did the math, something like 1,000 houses around Stonehurst and thank each person, saying, thank you that 100% of the taxes from your home are paying my salary. Have him do that. Think about the people who are affected. Sure, we're all affected, but the people who are really are the people who can't afford to be affected. They are watching their forget discretionary income. They're watching their non-discretionary get destroyed. And they will not be able to afford to pay the rent. Yes, that's true, the rent. We will say, fortunately, we have some great community organizations in this town. Murphy's Giving Market happens to be one of them. She's going to see an uptick. I try to work with a lot of these people and help them find resources. At the one organization that I work with, we have 49 families that we are trying to help, the vast majority in Upper Darby and Drexel Hill. This is going to hurt them when they have to say, oh, we can't make it on 100% of our paycheck. You want us to make it on 99? I think you really need to think about those people, because it appears that you have not. And if you have not, shame on you.
President, sorry, I'm having mic problem. I'd like to add something to what he just said. You were talking about, you were talking about the $15 an hour. What about the people being paid minimum wage who are getting paid $7.25 an hour, or the tip wage people who are your waiters and waitresses that are getting $2.25 an hour? What about them?
All right, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Patrick Daly, 1119 Wild. You're not going to hear anyone tonight who's excited about this proposal, so I thank you for your perseverance. And I'm brand new to this whole area, so you know way more than I do. I would say as a resident, I moved here in 2005, and you hear taxes in Upper Darby are high. And it's like the weather or something for reasons that you can't really contemplate. But as the position of the resident, as other people have already expressed, you have choices, right, and things that you're comparing. And I can see, I'm 2 blocks away from Haverford, there's houses over there who I know's tax burden is lower than my own. And it's not understandable as a citizen. And to echo what was expressed earlier, the concern I have about this is, number one, it's a brand new revenue stream in the sense of a new tax that doesn't presently exist. It's only going to go one direction, which is up. Secondly, I moved here from California, and I can say, even taking myself out of it, just from a public policy standpoint, it's not a good thing to be reliant on income because it fluctuates highly in recessions. Property taxes are more stable. So if you're going to tax me, just tax me where you're already getting it from. Because either way, it hurts my property values. People don't want to move into somewhere where there's additional income tax against them. So it hurts the property values either way, however you bake it in. So if there are reports or studies, or I mean, I'm sure from the budget, it can help me understand where the money is being spent. What's hard to understand as a citizen is why it's comparably so high here. So I don't want to put you on the spot to be responsible for responding to the budget of Haverford Township, but I just happened to look at it because I'm trying to understand. I literally don't understand why it's so much higher. And when I look at it, I see in Upper Darby 2023, a line item for $14 million for fire. And then I look at Haverford, it says fire protection, $1 million and change. So apparently we need to outlaw matchbooks or something. But it's those kinds of things which are just not, you know, as a taxpayer, they're not understandable. Like, why does that exist? And so I don't expect you to answer for their own budget, but that it's the comparison between areas that are proximate to us. Like, I can understand a tax difference between here and Manhattan, New York. It's hard to understand why it's so different from a township that I can hit by throwing a stone.
Sir, I'll answer that question. Upper Darby Township, Monday morning, 7 o'clock till Saturday morning, 7 o'clock is paid firefighters. From 7 o'clock Saturday morning till Monday morning are volunteers in Upper Darby. In Hereford, they're all volunteers, except maybe their chief and a captain or two, but I'm 99% sure that most of the guys that run on Hereford, Bon Air, 5 different fire stations are 95%, 98% volunteers. We're only volunteers on the weekend. I'm sorry, let me clarify that. Gariford Firehouse is volunteer 7 days a week. I'm sorry, didn't want to leave that out.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is on our website, there are a couple studies that have been done over the last 4 years that do address what I would call our structural deficiencies, long-term in the budget. So it has to do with contracts. We work with 4 different unions. And you're right, Upper Darby's taxes are, I think they're the 3rd highest in Delaware County behind Milbourne and Chester City, the property taxes. So again, with the EIT, and we won't know until, say, the revenue does come in. We're only making projections based on some of these studies. But there's a chance that we could hold property taxes for a while, more than, we held them in 21 and 22. I don't know that that was helpful for us and maybe not the right decision at the time, but with the EIT and when after a couple of years, we can really know how much revenue that would generate. Again, it does, if you work in certain other municipalities, you're already paying it, or, and then if they're in Delaware County or Montgomery County, you come back to us. If you work in Philadelphia, everything stays the same. Yeah, it's not my favorite option, but I think for the long term of the township, one of our biggest long-term expenses, I'm sorry, Carl, I'll let you go, is post-retirement benefits. And per capita, and one of the studies will show that on the website, we have the highest per capita unfunded liability for healthcare for our retirees in the state. And that number, how much we pay out to retirees, which they are totally owed, and we owe it to them and we're committed to them, that fluctuates too. So it's complicated is what I'm saying. But there is, if you wanted to know a little bit more about why we are where we are, some of the answers are in the studies. So thank you.
Okay. Hello. Thank you. Carl Hemphill, 27 Pilgrim Lane. I didn't get a chance. I didn't really look at the line item budget, but I was wondering if there's a way, I don't know if that state, what was it, they were going to do something from the state, SB 76. Does anybody know if is that bill ever, where the state's going to have to step up and have equal funding
it's called
for?
Act 47.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anybody reaching out at the state level to see how, it's unfair for Upper Darby residents to step up and pay this extra money that the state ultimately should be helping, because if we have extra cops down here patrolling the streets, ultimately at the end of the day, the state has an interest in this as well, because we're incarcerating people that are going to jail, and the state should probably help with this, in the sense that we don't want to be locking people up. Like we all have an interest in having safe streets and having people get educated. What's the plan with the state level? And is there a possibility to possibly table this for a year so people can look at this, see ways how we could get the business community to look at what you guys are proposing to do with the 1%, to see how we can add our input, how we run our small businesses, how we save money every single day. I got to get creative every day of the week. I got to get lucky every day of the week to stay in business, So is there any chance we can table it for a year so people can put their heads together and try to figure out where we can cut, and have input from the business community or stakeholders who live here to try to see how we can all work together? Or at a minimum, can we lower it and phase it in over time? That's another thing that I was thinking of. But ultimately, is there any way we can get these law firms out of Center City to come to Upper Darby? Can we raise the building levels to build us not a skyscraper, but maybe an 80-footer on 69th Street, and have these lawyers come out and these professionals who are getting ripped off in the city? They can come here and spend money. I mean, there's a way for us to create more jobs in this town, high-paying jobs. Philadelphia is a high-rent district. They may want to come out. Is there a way to look at other ways to bring jobs, high-paying jobs in this town, where people are going to spend money after hours, during lunch break? You name it. It's going to help everybody if we do that. But if there's any way to table it for a year and let the business community invite some members, I mean, everybody's time is just as valuable. And again, I appreciate everything you guys do here. I mean, it's a hard job you guys have. But I'm just trying to think, can we think outside the box instead of just going right at it and going right to 1% right out of the gates? Is there a way to mitigate it in any way?
We'll have that opportunity on November 29th, Mr. Hempel,
Okay.
to vote, so.
All right.
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent. I wasn't going to speak on this, but just sitting back there listening to all the residents, it's like really making me angry. As a long-term resident, I look at what Upper Darby used to be, and I look at what you've done to it. Okay, I said this in prior meetings. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th districts, they're the ones who pay the highest taxes that keep this township afloat. They're going to get hit triple times now. You're going to see a lot of for sale signs. Why don't you be honest with these people and tell them how you blew through the first budget, 2021. This is why this tax is coming, because they blew through the budget. How about be honest? You have destroyed Upper Darby Township. Do you understand? And you're going to continue to destroy it. I'm speaking now. Okay? Why don't you be honest and tell these folks you blew through the budget. You made Upper Darby, how'd you say, Laura, her personal piggy bank. Now they're being taxed. We're all being taxed. And a whole lot of people are going to get hurt. You want to raise these taxes? My car was broken into on my block. People are getting robbed out in the street. Are you kidding me? It's trash everywhere. And you sitting here trying to make this 1% sound so good. It's going to double the next year and the next year and the next year. So stop it. Enough. I am so glad you are gone. You have ran Upper Darby into the ground. All of you. Every last one of you. And you got the mitigated gall to sit up there with a smirk on your face like it's okay. No, it's not. This township is down to the doghouse. I'm done.
Thank you.
Becky Duggan, 129 North Pennock. I want to know, have you contacted the tax collector yet regarding this tax?
Excuse me?
Have you contacted the tax collector about collecting this tax?
The tax collector that works for the township?
Yes.
They're part of the finance department, yes.
When did you contact them? Whoever the tax collector is that would be collecting this tax, when did you contact them about the EIT?
The tax collector, I guess I'm not understanding your question. The tax collector that collects
Could
our
you-
property taxes, the one that would collect the EIT,
The one that would collect the EIT, when did you contact them about collecting this tax?
over a month, well over a month ago.
Okay, so when we had you put your budget out last time, it wasn't in the budget. If you had already contacted the tax collector, why wasn't it in the budget that we all sat around here and talked about
It's
last
to
time?
get information. You can't just, I mean, it's better to be prepared when you're going to do something, yes. So,
But
yeah.
you had already contacted them about collecting the tax, but it
What
wasn't in
about the-
the budget. Why did we even stand here and talk about the budget last time?
Tell the truth.
Like, why did we bother?
Before the election, let's be honest. Understandable, but let's.
We're doing call outs?
Becky, Diane, do you have an answer for Becky on that, or was it a month ago?
What did you?
Seemed like
first
you had a
talk
different
about an
answer.
EIT?
Well, I
Collecting it.
contacted them. a month
So
ago.
Keystone would be the collector for the EIT, and the mayor is the one who contacted the,
So
that
you
company.
don't know when she contacted them. So she said it's about a month ago.
Okay.
Then it wasn't in the budget that you put out, even though you'd already contacted the tax collector about collecting it. When you're planning on starting it, having it go into effect?
If it were to be passed on November 29th, it would start on January 1st.
How are you going to, like, contact, isn't that kind of short notice to initiate a tax? To get all that up and running and all the forms out and everything out to where people need,
So
or is that background work already been
this
done?
would affect different people in different ways. So people that already pay the EIT.
I don't,
to
so I don't know.
media, no, I don't either yet, right? The media, you won't notice a change. Many people here already pay an EIT, or if they work in Philadelphia, they pay city wage tax. So those people will not be affected at all. The money,
We all understand that. We all understand that if it's in the city, it stays in the city. But
Okay.
my point is, why wasn't it in the budget if you'd already been in the works about it?
because I was getting information about it.
So it was just all a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Okay. So it
Especially-
wasn't in the budget, but
Wait,
it's a
let me
surprise to us.
finish. This isn't a big surprise, especially for
Was to
somebody
us.
like you. No,
Was to
no,
us.
no, somebody like you that has been to these meetings. that
Becky,
You've
it's
been
not
here
a-
through the reports, and it's not a total surprise. And the state is recommending that we do this, the DCED. So,
The state's recommend, why is the state having a say in what our taxes are?
we have to, because,
why are they in our
because
local
we've been enrolled in the STAMP program because we wanted to come up with a 5-year financial plan. And those reports have been publicly presented at town halls, and they are on the website. So it's not, and especially for people on council, it's not a big surprise.
I'm not on council.
Right.
I'm not privy to your private meetings, and neither are they.
We've
And I
had very
think the
public
number of
meetings
people are
about
here
the
that-
state of
that are
our,
about it. I
about our
think you can see they didn't
finances.
know about it.
We've had very public meetings about the state of our finances.
You have, but you never said EIT. You never mentioned.
It's
an
been
additional
mentioned
tax.
in a bunch of them, yes.
Becky, it was mentioned Becky, it was mentioned 2 years ago, August.
And we didn't do it.
That's correct.
Rich Bly, 6914 Chestnut Street. As a person that has worked in several states and worked in several counties, I do understand the earned income credit that you're about to impose. The one question I want to ask, are you collecting that straight out as a flat fee, or will you be doing that on everyone's paycheck on a biweekly basis?
So for Delaware County, Keystone Collections administers the EIT, and they collect it, I guess it's based on a paycheck. So if you get paid every week, a little bit will come out of every paycheck, and if you get paid every 2 weeks, it would just come out of your paychecks, however often you get them. Once a month, every 2 weeks, once,
So
every week.
basically, what it would break down to was like $2 to $3 per paycheck?
I'm sorry?
So no, more?
1% of the gross income,
It depends on how much you make.
So it depends upon how much you make,
1% of the gross income.
1% of your gross income. Okay. That's it for now. I'll hold on the next question. That's it for now.
Sorry, a couple more questions. So one thing I failed to mention is I already know that 2 people in my house are moving when they heard this. So you're going to lose $1,000 right there. Okay, so has anyone, like the Finance Committee, come up with a different budget, like that wouldn't have an earned income tax, that had maybe certain cuts to various things that John had talked about? I think it was John DeMasi, somebody talked about various cuts. Can we have any information on that? Does anybody have that?
Yes, we are having a presentation at the end of the Finance Committee report today at the 7 o'clock meeting. There is a handout by the agenda where it's taking the original base of the mayor's budget and made adjustments accordingly. Does not include the EIT, but it does include the real estate tax increase.
Thank you.
And it does include the 5 officers. We will go into that, but it does include the 5 officers.
Thank you.
We do, it's at the-
And then just one other thing. You jumped right in to a 1% tax. You don't have to do 1%. Would you ever consider 0.5%? That's allowed. Because I see you have $7 million, I said this before, $7 million, and this is going to be every year. So what are you going to do with that money every year? Are we going to just build up a big giant bank balance? Is that the goal? So the residents can't afford to live here, but you're going to have a lot of money in the bank to pay Mr. Kilkenny for his services? Honestly, I'm disgusted, and I really want to know. So since you said that you only contacted Keystone 1 month ago, how soon so Keystone, say for instance, I don't work for anybody that's in any of the municipalities you talked about, okay? So how will employers know to withhold this tax? When will they find out, and how will they know?
Diane?
Yeah, so Keystone would do a total advertisement of this. That would be their responsibility to contact payroll companies, advertise it. It would be on our website. So that's their responsibility.
Where would they advertise it? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't know. I mean, advertise it so that hopefully every resident would know about this.
So it's on the residents to tell their employers. They're going to be advertising it like in New Jersey, in Delaware, Maryland, those places?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So they have 2 weeks to get this put in place, employers. So you're giving them a whole 2 weeks to do it. That's great. Thanks. But honestly, I hope you all consider an alternate budget, because even though she's got 5 police officers in this budget, don't believe it. She's not going to do it.
Carl Hemphill, 27 Pilgrim Lane. I forgot to ask, is dividend income considered earned income, dividend from real estate? Okay. Are 1040s being required upon, is there 1040s being required of people, or is it just coming out of the paychecks?
Do you mean people who get 1099s at the end of the year?
Yes. So,
Diane?
You would file, there's a tax return for the local, for the EIT tax that would be required to be completed.
for 1099s,
No, like if you, if you aren't, if you're, say, a consultant, then you would file a tax return, like with your federal tax return, state tax return. There's an EIT tax return that you would file.
okay. But like if somebody earns 1099 income in Upper Darby,
And then you would
they're
just-
required to send it to the tax office here in Upper Darby? Or,
You would, well, then you would file this return, and the money actually would go to Keystone, who would be the collector, and then they turn it over to the township.
got it. Thank you.
Nicholas Hoyt, 300 Edmonds Avenue. I hadn't planned to come up tonight. I just had happened to be downstairs for something else. Doing the quick math, I think the 1% would come out for mine and my wife's to what is equal of 2 mortgage payments. So that's 2 of my mortgage payments to cover the cost of this, just out of my household. And that feels a little unfair, right? We're probably a little better off than some others. Certainly not well enough to afford 1 mortgage payment, let alone 2, to go out to cover something else. So that's just one point. I have 2 others. Over the last handful of years, as the regulations to have our civil service workers stay in the town has changed, we've lost a lot of police and fire who used to live here out of requirement, and they've now moved out. So now, while we're trying to get folks in here, the folks that live here still, the folks who are still committed to Upper Darby, they now are going to be hit with another 1%. And I'm sure in their houses, as we pay our police and fire pretty well, are going to be in a similar situation where they're going to be losing at least 1 or more mortgage payments just to cover this tax. So we're hitting our own civil service workers just in the same way. And I think it's a bit of unfair. So that's those 2 points. The third is just a question. I kind of briefly looked this over. In this recreation budget, there's a miscellaneous decrease, about 100 grand. But it's like a real specific number. Is there anything big that's in there? What are we losing out of this miscellaneous?
Oh, which budget?
I'm sorry, culture and recreation.
Is that the finance committee budget?
It's what was on this handout.
Okay, that's okay.
It just seems a very specific number, so I have to imagine there's a specific product or project that is not being.
No, it's
being
not.
lost.
It's,
Laura, I don't think that's the finance committee budget.
you got it from over there, right? So it is the finance committee budget.
What line are you talking about?
Let me just find the
It's on the
line.
second page, on the back. Culture and recreation.
Okay. And then you're saying the Parks and Recreation?
So it just says miscellaneous, a difference from 2024, from 2023, $98,655. Total general fund expenses, a difference of minus $57,577.
Sorry for clarifying, that's not for Parks and Recreation. That's just miscellaneous general government budget.
Right, so my question is, it's a pretty specific number for miscellaneous. What is,
We haven't done the presentation yet.
okay,
That's happening later at the 7 o'clock meeting.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I just want to make sure I have my math right. So you guys are saying it's a 1% tax on gross, so like the gross afterwards. I will applaud 2 speakers beforehand. Their families must be making a lot of money to be paying a mortgage payment on this tax. Just by doing the math, I mean, 1% on gross, there are 26 paychecks in a year. The average median income for an Upper Darby resident is $57,000. That comes out to about a little over $500 a year, which is $22 a paycheck. So, I mean, I don't know any mortgages that I could get for $22. I'm not, obviously, I understand like the implications of the taxes. I do think it's very important to like keep in focus that this is a 1%. If you're going to implement it and you're having such concerns about it rising in the future, then put those conditions on it, preventing it from being risen in the future. But there's a lot of fear mongering, and the reality is, I was at that budget meeting. Our township's running very quickly into a position where it's not going to be able to pay into its pension funds. And we want to hire more staff for our police departments and our fire departments. Where's that money going to come from? I'll be honest, $22 a paycheck for a safer, cleaner, better community, it will come out of my paycheck, by the way, and I will happily pay it. So,
Let the speaker speak, please. Do not interrupt.
So my point, actually, on this point, and I do think this is an important one, there are a lot of people in our township that currently live and benefit from our services that don't pay any taxes, since the entirety of our burden is on property owners. People like myself, I get away tax-free. I think that this is actually a great way to make it more equitable, and people in my generation are willing to pay it. 1%. 1%. So let's just make sure we're doing the math correctly. Let's just stop with the fear mongering.
Please. That's enough.
Hello, my name
Hello.
is Roxanne Baird, and I live at 1024 Belfield Avenue. First, I'd like to just make a comment that I have received a lot of text messages from the mayor over time about things that I would deem really not that important, but yet there has not been transparency in communicating even these meetings and what they're about. If you looked on the website and you looked on what was in the newspaper and you looked in other places, it wasn't clear about this meeting at 6 p.m., the meeting at 7 p.m., the meeting tomorrow. But obviously I came to talk about EIT. I wasn't born and raised in Delco. I came from Philly. So I never thought that I would be in a position to consider moving back to Philly. I pay for private school. I have a 7th grader. I've paid for private school since kindergarten. Love the community, love the housing, have made investments in the house, have made investments in the community, have given severe donations when needed, and have cut family obligations to be able to help others. I'm educated. A lot of people in this room are educated. I don't understand why there isn't more citizen outreach or understanding how to think out of the box for coming up with scenarios that might be able to help the financial situation. To hear that it's going to be on gross income is not something that I'm really interested in. If you want to increase the taxes a little bit more, I've been in this house 10 years. Everything is increased. We do it incrementally, but this is a significant burden. And what it's going to mean is reductions in other things that you're able to do to help the community, because we have to find a way to fund deficits, but we haven't thought outside of the box. There have been consultancies that have been hired. There are studies that are done. What other ideas, or has anybody reached out to the community at large via the website, text message, come and brainstorm, look at the finances? You know, if you have experience in finance, instead, it's going to be 1% of your gross income with unlimited cap potential over time. I'm already paying for private school. Already, this is not sustainable. So has analysis been done? You average what people make. Obviously, I don't think you know what everybody makes that's going to be impacted. Has the consultancy thought about the exodus of high earners that are just no longer going to want to continue to pay for taxes when you're already paying for private school? My daughter goes to St. Dot's. I can live anywhere. I don't have to live in Drexel Hill. That was a choice because it seemed like a really great community. But you're going to force people out, and there has to be other ways to do it. And the time to think about it, there just hasn't been enough. a decision November 29th with a January 1 start date. I think unfortunately what government does and has done in this particular situation is undervalued the intelligence that lives in the community. And that's going to hurt you, and it's going to hurt you dearly.
Hi, Michael Vreem, 1204 Childs Avenue. I've lived in Upper Darby and Drexel Hill my entire life. I'm a third-generation business owner here in Upper Darby, and you guys are making it very difficult to stay residentially and business. This new tax is not fair. It's unaffordable to a lot of people. People are paycheck to paycheck. You say you're paycheck to paycheck, you understand what it means. All you're going to do is push people out, high earners, low earners, business owners like myself that have property that we live in and work in. We're going to leave. It's going to be a problem. I mean, for who, for what? There's been real estate tax freezes in the past with previous administrations, so that's been done before. We've never had this tax. Can we go back and maybe look at what they were doing differently? Because this past 3 years, there's money flying out of here, nobody knows where it is, and it's a mess. It's never been like this. I was born and raised here. I'm 47 years old. It's a disgrace. I just ask you to try to figure something else out, because people are leaving this district. It is an undesirable place to live. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Barbara Boucher. I've lived in this community since I was born. I have a business in Drexel Hill. It's Boucher Design. I work out of my house, and I pay the percentage, the business tax. And then, so now we're kind of double dipping because besides spending my business tax, I pull a salary. So I have to also pay on that salary. We're 70 years old. We've been here. We would love to stay, but it starts to look like we need to look at other places. So I hope that we can consider and think out of the box and look at everybody. It's a tough situation. I'm glad I'm not sitting in your seats, but I think we need to look at ways that we can keep the community alive. It's a great place to live. But at my age, I'm thinking maybe I can live someplace more comfortably without taking that tax out, because it feels like a double dip for me. Thank you.
Hi, Martha Manning, 908 Childs. I'm only here tonight because I heard about this meeting today by a text. No information. I feel like we really don't get information as residents. I've been here since 1990, and I do really think a 1%, gross tax on income is going to drive out the people that we want to stay to make the community strong. I don't think that's a good idea, and I can't imagine that you can legally put a cap on that it can never be raised. Does the council have the right to pass this on its own without it going anywhere else? And what's the process for passing it? Just 2 public hearings?
6-5 vote on November 29th. That'll be the pass.
Yeah,
Or
so-
6-5 against on November 29th.
Even though it was never introduced in council.
That just seems unimaginable to me. A lot of people have come to Upper Darby because they don't want to live in the city where there's a wage tax, or they don't want to live other places where there's a wage tax. So once you start, I really firmly believe 1% wage tax becomes 2, becomes 3. And we are driving out the high earners who really are stable forces in this community. I think it's a really bad
And
precedent.
it'll go to 3.75, just like Chester City. That's what Chester City is.
Yeah, there are other places to live, though, right? There are other places to live.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
They're higher than 2,
I
Vice
think it
President.
should be seriously reconsidered. I do think many people who are the higher income earners, they send their kids to private school, and it's a trade-off to live here and send your kids to private school. So if we want to, make this trade-off by having a wage tax, I think you'll drive a lot of folks out.
Sean Flatley, 4410 Dermond Ave, Drexel Hill. First of all, I want to thank you for what you do and your time. It's a lot of time and effort without a lot of thanks or praise. But Gina and I have lived here for 30 years. Our 4 children went through Aronimink Elementary. Our homes finally have seen some appreciation. We were recently given a pause in a constant increase of the real estate tax. We've known for years the imbalance between the corporate tax base and the residential tax base that we've had here. You know, after safety of the township residents, your #1 job should be driving business here. We have to change the imbalance of that tax structure. You can't keep going back the same well. But instead, you put roadblocks ahead in the development of Drexel Line Shopping Center, which causes the medical center that was supposed to be in there to move out, removing our only fine dining restaurant, delaying the completion for years. We were left with a mound of dirt, a new supermarket, same bank that was there, and we'll have a Wawa, but multiple empty stores. There had to be 20 businesses in there, and we have 3. You're now going to vote for a tax that will affect the values of our homes and encourage people to move out and discourage businesses from opening here. It doesn't make any sense. I ask you to vote no on this earned income tax.
How are you? My name is John McCann, 512 Argyle Road. I just want to say one thing. You guys are saying this 1% tax is a great thing. It's so great that in Delaware County, 72 municipalities, boroughs, and townships, and unincorporated communities are involved in this. Out of 72, 21 only have this tax, 21. Ashton, Brookhaven, Chester City, Chester Township, Collingdale Borough, Darby, Lansdowne East, Lansdowne itself, Eddystone, Fallcroft, Lower Chichester, Marcus Hook. You know, the list goes on. Prospect Park. The only one that's not on the I-95 corridor is Thornbury Township. And I can't see why you want to put a 1% tax when you already tried to charge people for parking in their neighborhood. You want to put a $35 bill on that. I think that you got to go do away with this tax entirely and go back to the drawing board and come up with a better plan, because you can't keep taxing residents out of the township. And will renters be paying this 1% tax also?
The short answer is yes, and that's a frequent complaint that we've had from people, that the way we tax our residents is too reliant on property tax, and that renters don't pay tax. That's not my theory. I think they pay indirect taxes, right?
Okay.
But anybody that has a job, right, and there is a threshold where it starts. If you make under a certain amount, you either get the rebate for the 1% or you don't pay it at all. But the short answer is yes.
Sustainable? Is it sustainable for all the residents, or do the residents that do work hard have to move out because they can no longer afford it, because taxes do rise, as you know? Taxes will rise. You can't lock a 1% tax on this. It'll go up eventually to 2 to 3 to 4, maybe 5%. And one other thing, in your budget, you have consulting fees for the trash department. Why do you have consulting fees? Why are there consulting fees for the trash department? You pick up the trash, you know where you're going. There should never be consulting fees.
I'm sorry, for what?
Under your budget.
Yes.
In your budget, you have consulting fees.
Consulting fees, yes.
Yeah, for trash. For trash. Why? You pick up the trash and deliver it.
Okay, no, because
Please answer that one.
So we did bring in a firm that looked at our routes to see if they could be shorter, they could be streamlined in some way, and also what it would cost for twice a week trash collection year round. It's just,
So
we have to know the
have a
numbers.
consultant do that? You don't have somebody in that department, the feasibility? The department head should be doing that.
Okay.
They should be doing it. The department head should be your consultants, not an outside firm that costs the taxpayers more money. That's all we've been doing, is paying, since you guys took office, is paying more money. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Kim Tonetti. I'm at 1216 Belfield Avenue. And I just wanted to speak a little bit about, I want to echo the gentleman's conversation about the different boroughs that do have the earned income tax versus the ones that don't. My job is a realtor. I've been here for 10 years. I have also been in 4 other townships in the area. I'm a landlord in this township as well. So I've watched things on a macro view, as far as working with lots of different clients from all different types of price points, from Section 8 clients that are trying to buy their first house to $1 million homes. I've lived in Villanova, Haverford Township, and here. and I like it here. But I got to tell you, with consulting with sellers here 10 years ago, many people would have liked to have sold their home, but they would have been underwater. They couldn't get their home prices up. The taxes were outrageous, and a little bit of relief actually came, and kudos to everybody who's worked on the reassessment plan for Delaware County, because I know that was a big challenge. We spoke to sellers, and, finally, there was about a third of taxes that went down, a third that stayed about the same, and a third that went up, balanced. Finally, in the last 3 years, I would say, enough appreciation has happened in all of the townships around us that finally some numbers started coming up in the Upper Darby area. This was happy news to some buyers and sellers in the area. So it's attracted people in the last 3 years, but the taxes were still relatively high compared to some places like Newtown Square, Marple Township, other areas that seem to get lower taxes, but same price homes. And when we are, as realtors, are trying to help buyers and sellers create a place to live, part of that is, of course, you have your mortgage, which is the purchase price. You have your taxes that come every year. You can't amortize that over 30 years. So if we have to introduce another tax on top of it, it's going to squelch the progress that's already been made in recent years. I think if we look to areas that are, if we have to look at a budget, let's maybe look at modeling after some of the other townships that have worked with less money and have been more efficient. Let's also consider working with allowing people to come in, developing the commercial spaces like what was mentioned earlier. That would be productive. I think there could also be some more efficient use of keeping people in their homes so that they pay their taxes by having a centralized taxing vehicle. Right now, we have to go send our school taxes to one place, send our county taxes to another, and send our municipal taxes to another. And if you don't get them in time in a certain time period, then you would have to deal with Portnoy or go to the county. So I think if that could be centralized, we could keep people in the homes longer, and then they would be tax-paying citizens instead of going through the foreclosure process, which brings more blight to the neighborhood. So I would like to see a little more progress there. If we created some efficiency there, we would have more people paying taxes, and then we wouldn't need to create a new tax for individuals. If we look to Philadelphia and see how they've presented the tax abatement system to try to attract both businesses and residents, that's been, I think we could all look at the last 10 years and think that's been pretty successful. And so maybe we could do that to try to attract some first responders and other ways to create the buzz to make people want to come here again. There's some beautiful commercial spaces. I think Granite Run is a good example of something that was once a little blighted that's now creating some traffic and bringing in commerce. The shopping center that's where Lowe's is, that's looking pretty nice. And there's some other great examples. I think we can do better in some other areas. So I just wanted to thank you for your time and let you know that the most successful townships in the areas where people do want to live, that are constantly coming to us and saying, I want to go here first, here second, here third. Upper Darby, unfortunately, is ranked at least about 8 or 9 in the close suburbs. And we would like to see that at 2 or 3 if we can create some financial incentives for them. Thank you very much.
One quick thing. I'm 99% sure I'm correct on this. There is no low income exemption on the EIT. There is for LST. That's $12,000. There is none for an EIT. Everybody's going to pay.
I'm not going to be as eloquent as everybody. Judy Duggan, 141 North Pennock. So I just want to bring up that, the whole promise here that you're bragging about in your little press release was, we'll get 5 new policemen. So $12 million is going to get us 5 new policemen. When we've been promised 5 new policemen for how long? This is a lie also. We'll never see those 5 new policemen. We all know it. You've been saying it for years. We don't have 5 new policemen. $12 million for 5 new policemen? Come on, stop it. This is wrong. That's it.
Carl Hemphill, 27 Pilgrim Lane. I had a question. What is the gross receipts tax right now for businesses in Upper Darby?
What is it?
Gross receipts tax.
I think that's 1% and 1.5%.
Because I believe Upper Darby has a tax on businesses, right? Gross receipts tax? Mercantile tax. Is there a way to possibly look at that? Because that, I mean, there's like people were talking about tax abate, which was a great idea to lure companies out of the city in Upper Darby, because we got this great transportation center right here next to us. But the gross receipts tax is there. I don't know if anybody's looking at that as another alternative way of collecting revenue, because businesses, if we have more businesses come in and we can track, again, I like saying lawyers because lawyers make money. Believe me, they have my money. They have my money. So imagine if lawyers came to town and started spending money on this street, 69th Street, right? And all these businesses were paying gross receipts tax. That's what we need to be doing, guys. The residents shouldn't be paying for this. The residents will frequent these businesses, right? Are we agreeing with that? Businesses create jobs, right? Do we agree with that? We don't want handouts. We just want to hand up, right? I don't want no handout. My dad and mom raised me right. I work for everything. I mean, anybody who has a business in this room, or anybody who works for anybody, we all want to produce. Gross receipts tax may be an avenue to do this and keep the residents happy. Let them use their money, go out and spend it at these new businesses we're going to create. How's that? Is that a solution? What do you think? How you doing? You're a lawyer too. Yeah, you're doing good. Thank you, guys. But that's just an idea. I love living in this town. I've been here for 33 years. I'm not leaving, right? We just got to think outside the box here. She made a great point. She's a realtor. She's on the front lines. All right? Thank you, guys.
Brian Sharif Taylor, 7258 Landport Road. The one thing I would like to ask the council is before making this decision, is look at your ethical business and family codes. Because the thing is, the one thing you got to remember, how this affects your residents that have families that they have to take care of every day. I haven't read too much on it, so I can't really speak upon it because I just don't like to throw out words and don't know anything. But sometimes you actually have to listen to your constituents to actually get a better understanding of what's going on. Think about it. We just got through a pandemic. What, maybe about 2 years ago? And then you add on wage taxes, your regular taxes, and then school taxes. Now, it might not affect everyone, but think of the individuals, the household who has 2 children that they're trying to raise, and something that they have to give to your regular residency that you can't give to your children. Now, I keep hearing about money being spent, but I'm not hearing about things to improve the community. Perfect example is within the budget, you talked about the budget line for the senior services, which was, I think, at 66,000 or plus, but there's only one. It needs to be 2 because they are essential to your community. They're still passing at a rate of 5% of your seniors. There has to be stronger programs. There has to be ways to uplift your community. When your community keeps feeling that you're taking from them and you keep asking for taxes, what's stopping them from getting together and they're saying, we're not going to pay you anything? That's the one thing that nobody wants. But you're not going to take from someone's family. let me ask you this personal question. Who would you rather pay or take care of first? Your local government or your family? Before you make that decision. Simple as that.
John Damascus, again, 706, 706 Stanbridge, I just want to clarify, Ms. Mayor, you said that there was you said something about there was a pause in raising the property taxes in, what is that, 2021?
2021 and 2022.
And then you said that was a mistake?
It might have been a mistake. I've been scolded by some of our financial advisors,
So,
including the DCED.
so
Yes.
how was it a mistake? That it may have actually gone up, or it was a mistake to pause that?
It wasn't the best fiscal decision to keep the taxes at the same level. as they
So,
were.
okay, so now we have, it was a mistake not to take money from the residents. Is that, it was a mistake
I see you're
not to
trying to
allow
twist
the
my
residents
words.
to keep more of their money? Is that what they were saying? Like,
You're-
that was the wrong thing to do?
You're funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. Believe me, I could probably do about an hour of stand-up right now on the council if you'd really like me to. That was a serious question. It was a mistake to allow the
I said it might have
citizens-
been a mistake. That's what I said.
It might,
So,
excuse me,
might have been.
but other than being an elitist, it is never a mistake to allow the people to have more of their money, to have better economic activity, to allow them to spend the money where they deem appropriate for their family so that we can take our children out of a deteriorating, dangerous school district and put them in a Catholic school or private school. It is absolutely never a mistake to allow people to keep their money. You cannot spend our money better. You've already shown that. You can't even regulate parking. Parking is stationary objects that don't move, and there have been 3 scandals. It is never a mistake to allow the people to keep their money. Thank you.
I'll just be really brief. So in the budget you presented, the real estate transfer tax or an exit tax has significantly increased. Is that because you expect a lot of people to move?
No, because we didn't budget enough in '23, so I adjusted the budget for '24
Well, you didn't budget enough in when, I'm sorry?
in fiscal year '23. So I adjusted it in '24 because the real estate transfer tax, we're realizing more than we had expected.
'Cause
In
20, okay. And my next question is, has anyone ever considered not hiring criminals as a good way to save money?
So before, John, before, just for who hasn't got up to the mic, because we've had multiple, same people get up and ask questions. Is there anybody in the audience that hasn't gotten up before people that have spoken 2 or 3 times? Please come up to the mic now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Burke. My name's Bill Santor, 1018 Childs Avenue. I own multiple properties here. I do a lot for this community. I love this community. 55 years, 5 siblings, 4 of us still live here. I'm trying to give my house to one of my nieces or nephews. Guess what they said? No, thank you. It's crazy. Beautiful house. Most of you know my house. You know my house. You know my house. You know my house. No, thank you. Now you're doing this tax because whatever reason, they're all professionals. No, thank you to those beautiful homes over in Drexel Hill, where you live, Mayor. Beautiful homes. No, thank you, because they knew this was coming, all right? They knew it was coming. So now we have Carl saying, let's raise the tax to the business tax, gross business. That's ridiculous. You they won't come if you raise it, all right? And I think you understand that. The other thing is, you're just doing it this way, you're benefiting all these people, and there's thousands of them, thousands and thousands of people that own houses here that don't live here. Guess what? they're benefiting what you're doing instead of hurting the people that do live here, run their businesses here, and love this community, all right? So when I move out and I keep all my properties, I'm going to make money off of what you guys think is a good thing. It's not a good thing. And the best thing was the guy who talked about his mortgages. And I understand Kyle doesn't understand what he's saying. I don't mean you saying what he's saying by saying it's not 2 mortgage payments. It's $1,000 at $500. It doesn't matter if it's a day, a month, a week, a year of your paycheck. $1,000, if you pay $500, it's 2 mortgage payments. That's a fact. There's no other way to change it. You put 12 months at $500 and you charge $1,000 to that family. You just took 2 mortgage payments from them. All right? The other thing you're going to do is, my people, I've already talked to them about it, who I run a construction business here. I said to them, what are you going to do if you get taxed more, another 1%, you know? They want to work from home. Well, guess what? What am I going to do then? But you're not hurting me, all right? I'm fine, all right? I'll pay my tax. I'll do what I have to do. You know who you're hurting? You're hurting Severas. You're hurting this little store here, the Mexican store across the street. You're hurting all these people because guess what? That 1%, they're not buying lunches. Guess what they're doing? They're buying food from their places where they live. They're not coming here to our new beautiful, beautiful store that should have been here 2 years ago, but they're going to their Acme in Bryn Mawr or their Acme in Malvern or their Acme here and there. Now they're not going out to eat. So you're hurting us again and again and again and again. You're not thinking the whole thing out. And I understand you're hearing from this person. Yeah, you're hearing from that person. Guess who that person is? That person's the one you're going to pay to collect the taxes. That doesn't even have a business here, all right? Now, I don't know who the solicitor, who's the solicitor? Anybody here? You're the solicitor. How you doing, Mr. Kilkenny? No offense. Mr. Kilkenny, we have lawyers in this town and that can do the same job, but you went to frickin' Montgomery County, not even Delaware County for a lawyer. It's ridiculous. Let's start thinking of our own community and not the communities around us. Am I wrong, Mayor?
Excuse me?
Am I wrong? We don't have a lawyer in this county that can do this job?
Bill, I'm here. I'm also a lawyer, and I work for Shelbyville County. You know me. I've known you my whole life.
I understand that, but the fact is, the real money's going to Montgomery County. It's not staying here.
I live here.
He's getting the money. You're getting a certain amount of money, but he's getting the money. I know how business works, Colleen. I own too many of them. Okay. So I know how it works, but we do have people a law firm from Delaware County and I'll stop there. I'm not picking on you. You know what I'm saying. So we don't have to worry about it, you know? That's it. And the last thing to say is about the police. We need more police. There is no doubt, but we also have to take the handcuffs off the police. And they're on them, and you can't tell me any different because when I call for my property in Upper Darby on the Lansdowne side, you know what they say? We can't do anything about that. We don't have not enough people. We're not allowed to do that. We have to be, what do they call it, proactive instead of preactive. All right? You know they're selling drugs up and down the street. The cops, I love these cops, and I do a lot for them, but you guys have handcuffs. Take them off their wrists and let them do their jobs. And last but not least, thank you very much for what you do for our township, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, because we have to stop voting parties. We have to start voting people that care, all right? And that is all I got to say, and thank you very much.
My name is Joy McCann. I've lived in Upper Darby since 1982. Taxes have gone up constantly. I know you said they paused, but it didn't seem like it paused to me. My income didn't come up for freezes, but my taxes did. Also, I now have 2 grandsons we're raising. One is in Upper Darby, senior, and many of his friends live in Philadelphia. Are they cracking down on people coming in from the other districts going to Upper Darby? He thinks it's great because they have bad schools. Well, we're paying taxes. He doesn't understand. We're paying taxes. Could they investigate that and maybe get some tax money or get them out of our schools? So we're not paying that. That could be a lot of income coming in. Our school taxes are the highest taxes we pay. And yet there's people in Philadelphia coming into Upper Darby. And they used to I know when my children were older, or younger rather, we had to really show your proof of residency. They don't do that as much now. It's like, okay, you live in Upper Darby, we'll believe you. Okay, come to Philadelphia, just go to Upper Darby. Well, my grandmother might live there. Well, you don't live with your grandmother. Live there. Or else go to school where you live. There's a lot of other ways you can get money besides a 1% tax, because it is going to hurt a lot of people. And I think also, my son told us about this. I didn't even know about this meeting. It would have been nice to get a letter in the mail. I know they don't send letters out anymore, but people like me read in the mail. I like reading mail. I don't like looking on websites all the time. My eyes aren't that great. Okay, so I don't know. There's a lot of things we could do besides adding another tax to people. Thank you, and thanks for all you do.
Hi, my name is Bernadette Farrell, and I live at 4501 Dermond Road in Drexel Hill. I've been sitting here for over an hour, and I wasn't going to say anything. I'm not a political person, and I'm very nervous standing up here. But I want to let you know that I've lived in Drexel Hill almost all my life, and lived in Lansdowne for 5 years. My husband owns a business in Drexel Hill, and we moved for 6 months to Media in 2002. And we moved into a big house and we loved it, but we missed our community. So what did? We put a sale sign on our house in Media and we moved back to Upper Darby. We moved to Drexel Hill and we continued to raise our family in Drexel Hill. I am very sad that it's come to this. I'm very sad that as a resident, I had no idea about this EID. I consider myself an educated person. I'm a registered nurse. But I had to hear about this meeting tonight through a text message from another neighbor. It's your responsibility to let your constituents know what's going on. It's your responsibility to treat us fairly. It's your responsibility to do what's right. And I think this tax is a mistake. I think it obviously will affect everybody. People who make minimum wage, people who make $20 an hour, people who have worked years and years and have a higher income. It will affect property values. It will diminish neighborhoods. And I just think it's something you need to really seriously, not with laughter, Barbara, and not with smirks on your face when you hear something that somebody says that you don't agree with, but I really think you all owe us knowledge, time, to put this out in such a short matter of time when it affects thousands of people. This is thousands of people. It's going to impact their lives. And you're giving it a month, 2, 3, 4 weeks? That isn't right. In any world, that's not right. So I really think and hope that you'll just reconsider and maybe just talk together and maybe just think about what you've heard tonight and really just think about what you've heard with an open mind and realize that the people in this room are just a small fraction of the people who really this impacts. And the people in this room are a small fraction because they didn't know. They don't know about this. So I just hope, it's such a hard world now, and this community is a good community. I volunteer. I've done a lot of things in this community, as my husband has as well. Our children were so happy growing up here. Bikes on the front lawn, a little bit of independence. That's what you want to keep. You want to keep families here. You want people to want to move here, not be 8 or 9 in the choices. So please, just take some time. Think about what you're really doing and the impact that it makes, because that's what you're supposed to do. Thanks.
Carl Hemphill, 27 Pilgrim Lane. I just want to add on to Bill Santora's, just to make one thing. Bill, the gross receipts tax is like 0.00032, or it's very low. So companies that are in business in Upper Darby are subject to that gross receipts, and it's not 1%. It's like 0.00. It's 1,000th. At least that's when they passed the ordinance way back in the, I forget which mayor it was, but it was been on the books for at least 15, 20 years. So I'm not really sure if we're looking at that. And then what also may happen, an unintended consequence of this, employers are going to probably go underground and pay in cash. So people, you may want to think about how the underground community is going to react to this, and it's going to actually put more pressure on people who are out in the open, so to speak, and all their incomes declared. So maybe look at how the people who are already scofflaws, who aren't paying any income taxes already, it's going to make them go further underground. So that's one suggestion. I think at the federal level, only 50% of Americans may be paying tax, and the other 50 probably aren't. And they're talking about doing a value-added tax so that everybody pays tax, a VAT tax. So if you go to the store, everybody's paying 14%. I know people say it may not be fair, but it's like people that if you get up and work hard every day, and somebody else doesn't want to get up and work hard every day, why are you going to hurt the guy who wants to be the hardworking guy and making a living for himself and being honest about it? So please, just listen to the people here and try to see if we can table it and figure out a way to have people from the business community and the community at large figure out how we can help save this town money, cut expenses without raising taxes, if we could do it. All right? That's all I want to say.
John Bazzari, 353 Kirks Lane. I just have one quick question, Diane, that I forgot to mention when I came up here and spoke originally. On the detailed line item, salaries, part-time salaries for parks and maintenance. Again, as of 7/12, 1,728 in expenditures. As of 9/30, $105,238 in expenditures. Did we hire a lot of part-time employees in that short period of time? Yes. Like, why such a big jump
Because it's the summer, I believe.
but again, as of 7/12, we expended $1,000, 728. And then as of 9/30, we
What's the
expended 105,000.
In Department 452?
452.
Yeah. I believe it's because it's the summer. I mean, they don't work during the regular part of the year.
John, I'm sure the numbers are a little off. They start around Memorial Day weekend, some of the part-timers, and maybe just the numbers are off. I'm sure that number should have been
I'll look at
halfway
it.
through come July, late July.
John, I'll
Just
look at it.
doesn't make sense.
I'll look at it.
Right. Oh, and then I want to echo what that woman said back there about, think about what you're doing. Think about when it comes time to vote for this on November 29th. Go home tonight and really ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? Because it really is not. These are your constituents. If you are representing the constituents, You're hearing everybody that came up here to say they are not for it. So if you say, when you say you do what your constituents are asking, they're asking you not to approve it.
Sorry, come up again. This sounds a bit like, and as Bill pointed out, a little regressive of a tax, similar to what Philadelphia did with the soda tax. Folks just go right across City Line Avenue rather than spend the extra money on a soda, just like they would just go to another grocery store or work from home. So I certainly can echo that, Bill. And I think only because my mortgage statement got hit on twice. Household income's 200 grand. You know, 1% of that's $2,000. My mortgage is $1,050 a month. So that's 2 mortgage payments right there. A question I have, though, of the residents that we feel that are probably going to be impacted, that are probably going to hit the EIT if this were to be approved, do we have an estimation as for how many residents and/or the dollar amount that might actually be brought in this EIT? Do we have either of those figures?
We're working with PFM. We'll have more figures as to which percentage of people here work in Philadelphia, which percentage of people here that live here work in a place that has EIT. I think they have a conservative estimate of, I think it's around 38% with those two, Philadelphia and other EIT communities. They have estimated how much revenue will be brought in, yes.
So that would be 62% of residents who aren't already paying it will now be paying it?
So these numbers
Ballpark.
aren't, yeah, ballpark. I think that might be fair, but PFM is working on more specific numbers for that, yes.
And you didn't have a dollar amount or a ballpark dollar amount, what that might bring in?
So for 1 full year of implementation, PFM estimated $18 million. But they also assumed that nobody here worked in Philadelphia or in other communities that have an EIT already. So it's not the best number because it's not a true number. But they put that together for the town hall that we had in September. And we don't know, I mean, we're not really going to know, just like we didn't know with the really transfer tax. We estimated what we thought we would get with it, and we've gotten more for the last 2 years. We've had it in place for the last 2 years. And you need a couple years to really understand how much, so you can average it out and have a good idea of how much money it will bring in. I think it's going to be closer to 12.
Okay.
But I'm not, I think it would be a fair way to budget it. And I think it would be really good for us because we really have very little fund balance. Fund balance is the cushion. The DCED, PFM, eConsult, and the general accounting practice is that we should have $16 million in reserve. Reserve is another way to call the fund balance, right? And we're not anywhere close to that right now. And we haven't been for a very long time. So I thank you for, I thank everybody for coming out and giving your comments several times. Thank you.
Nick, hold on one second. Mayor, you just said that the other boroughs or municipalities, we're going to get that 1% from Fulcroft. We're going to get that 1% from media. You just said we weren't.
No, we are. If I
Yes.
said that,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
slipped
So
up.
we are going to get that. So we are looking at $12 million.
But not 18 is what I'm saying.
Not 18, but we are looking, Diane, we're looking at $9 to $12 million next year, correct? With the 1%?
Right, that's what we're estimating, 12 million.
That's what we're estimating, 9 to 12. That was the
Or
call.
12
So,
million is within the budget.
you know, it's not 18, but it's not 9. It's probably closer to 12. And yes, they looked at, the city, but if you're working in a city like myself, for 6 months and I go somewhere else to work, I'm going to pay that 1% too.
Right, but so again, in my household, neither of us are currently paying it.
Right.
And now we will,
Absolutely.
if this goes through.
Yeah.
Yes.
And where my wife works at Fitz, she pays 1% now. Now that 1% will come to the township, so. And then maybe Fitz and Yaden will make their income tax to 2 because they lost 1%. And that's how the game goes.
Sean Flatley, 4410 Dermont. So $12 million, I don't remember exact numbers, but I think it was a few years back. There was,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
$12 million. I remember a few years back, I don't remember what year it was about $29 million in residential tax, 19 million in corporate tax. I might be totally off. Can someone tell me what the residential tax you collect is, how much that would be? I remember it's about twice the amount or a third more in residential than you get in corporate tax. Yeah.
It is, we're proposing, sorry.
So while we're on break, can I ask you a quick question?
Wait, I got
If you guys thought when you did all this at 18 million is what we needed, and now it's 12.
Yeah.
When are we getting hit for the 6? So we're gonna be at 1.5% at the next meeting.
We'll be at 1.5 next year, guaranteed. Because do you have a report, Mayor, that they suggested 1.5%, not 1%? Yes or no?
Which report are you talking about?
Do you have an estimate that they said you should be at 1.5% instead of 1? Yes or no? Was there a conversation in the last month that they're recommended at 1?
No.
Okay, all right. At
Not
any
that I
time,
can
Mayor.
remember, no. I mean,
Not that I
there's,
can remember, John. Thank you.
yeah, that's,
But this should not be that
here
difficult.
come
Let's just take it
accusations out of nowhere.
Let's just take it that I heard it correctly, and those residential, you should know what the residential tax base is here. I don't understand why you don't know that. But the residential tax base, let's say, is $29 million, and the corporate tax base is 19, let's say, or 18, or something like that. You're going to add $12 million. First of all, what is the miss of your reserve? How much do you need to fill this reserve so you have your cushion? Is it $12 million? Is it $18 million? Is it $5 million? Is it just a random number that 1% is going to produce whatever it produces? So I think you need to know your numbers.
We're not going to know what we get until, right? We don't
I
know what the
understand, but you've
actual
done
income is.
projections, but what do you need? What do you need? Not what you get. What do you need to fill your reserve to give you a cushion?
Ideally, it's the $16 million.
$16 million.
We don't have to have it right away, right? It's something that we can build with the earned income tax over several years.
But again, do you know the residential tax that is taken?
So our current real estate taxes,
Looking here at the general fund, oh, sorry.
Our current-
General fund proposed budget worksheet, we're looking at real estate's current 56,985,895. So, and it's,
And
with the
corporate?
transfer tax, it has listed for 2 million. It comes to a total of 61,010,895. Your mercantile is 1.4 million. I'm just gonna round these numbers. I hope that's okay. Business privilege is 1.2. And then, so that's, I hope that answers your question. Then
Not really, because I would be curious what the
So
corporate tax is
61
generated
million
in this area. If it's,
is 2.6 million for business.
Diane, can you answer Mr. Flatley?
Is that correct, or am I wrong,
So-
Diane?
Go ahead.
no, the current real estate tax is the 56 million, but plus also we have 2 million in our debt service that's real estate. So it's about 58 million for our current real estate tax.
okay. Do you have an idea what the corporate tax or the taxes you receive from corporations that are in this area?
So the corporate is, I'm just going to go adding up 1, 2, 2.6, 2.8. I'm looking at like delinquent to 2.8, 3. So it would be about 3 million.
3 million. And you're looking 4 times that additional from the residents to come, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You're looking at 4 times the amount that the corporate taxes derived here. And so you're looking at $12 million to come from the residents, $16 million if you could get it, and which you might get. It just, the numbers are just crazy. You need, be helpful to understand what you're needing to do and what you're going to do with this money, as opposed to just being a cushion. It's going to be a cushion of $16 million. I doubt that. Well, no, she's saying it's going to build over time. So
It could, but no, we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen.
How can you do it?
We do know that for years and years and years, we've been running a structured deficit. We have a built-in structured deficit, and it's been going on for years. We have very little in reserves, and we're very heavily dependent on property taxes.
But you could be on more corporate taxes if there was more development in this area. If Drexel Line was in place earlier, right, we would have more tax coming from it, correct?
The Wawa just opened today. Drexel Line's getting built, yes.
3 years later than it should have.
Okay, since you brought it up again for the second time.
He's allowed to.
Yes, of course he is. Thank you. The big holdup with Drexel Line was about the sewer. Yes, it was. Yes,
Impervious
it was.
space.
Yes, it was. So you tried running on that. I don't know how many people really believe you. The DEP was the big holdup with the sewer and the Column Brook. Yeah, keep calling out, you know.
What is the outcome now? What, are we going to get any more businesses in there? And sometimes rates are
The
crazy.
developers are working, no, the developers are working on it.
sure
They think tentatively CHOP is coming in. And they are working on other things. I think they're doing a really nice job. I mean, since the time they
Do we
broke
have any
ground.
other plans of developing other corporate business to get $3 million, maybe up to $6 or $10 million of corporate tax revenue?
We are working on we're trying to work with the owner of most of 69th Street. They're out-of-towners, Ashkenazi. They own most of Market Street to Walnut. And I mean, anybody that's been here for any length of time knows that a lot of the stores are empty. Sears is empty, the parking garage. We're working with them so that they can come into compliance with code. It's kind of a hard-fought battle that our solicitors are in with them. But yeah, I mean, we're trying, but it takes time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Josh Daly again, 1119 Wild. Just real quick, other than the one brave young man, no one's here volunteering to have their taxes raised. So just back to the mechanism again that I mentioned earlier. The numbers that you spoke to in terms of what you're estimating, or these, I don't know if they're consultancies or whoever's giving you these estimates, I don't know if it factors in the human behavior that can occur, right? Because property taxes, I can't pick my house up and move it somewhere, but I can take my income somewhere else. And it isn't guaranteed that the income you have here today is going to be there after this passes. So I think, I recognize that in your position, you have a hold on the budget you have to deal with. These ideas are terrific, but they're probably not turnkey solutions for you, right? So I'm just emphasizing in the decision, the question of where it comes from, it's going to have a rebound effect, and you may get less than you want out of it, or you may end up lowering the median income of the township because the high earners will choose to take themselves elsewhere. So just consider that.
Thank you.
I just have one more thing to add.
Sure.
I retired as a mediator with the state of Pennsylvania, and I negotiated a lot of contracts. So it's always percentages. So you put a 1% tax on here, Upper Darby, all your workers are going to want that 1% back. So instead of getting a 2% or 3% raise, you're going to go for 3, 4, 5, 6%. So it's going to cost you, it's going to snowball, cost more money for the township to do business with workers for public works. And then you're going to say, well, we'll sub it out. Then you sub it out. What happens? They give you a low ball figure in the beginning, and then after that, they nail you to the wall. So it's a losing proposition across the board, because now you have residents that depend on a raise that you're taking. If they get a 2% raise, you're taking 1% off of them. PECO's already hitting them with another percentage raise. You know, everything's going up. I understand that. But you can't keep taking off the residents. It's like the Boston Tea Party all over again, for God's sake. You know, think about that, please. Thank you.
Don't sigh, Brian. So I just want to understand, so if we get that $60 million balance back up, you're not going to lower the EIT? I know you're not going to be the mayor anymore, but that would never be your idea, right?
Let's see how,
CAO or whatever.
we're making guesses here. Let's see
But why are
what
we making
happens.
guesses? Why are we making guesses? Why don't we make a plan?
Maybe-
Instead of a
no,
guess?
I don't
Why don't we
see-
make a plan?
I don't-
Why
I
don't
don't
we take a
see-
year and make a plan instead of a guess?
No, well,
not how
what could
businesses
happen
work.
if the EIT were to pass, if it's
And again, we're
working really
people that we're
well,
paying.
please, you don't know how long maybe we don't raise the property taxes. Could be 8,
so-
9, 10 years. So.
So let me say this.
Would there be a
Before the
rebate?
election,
I mean, right, I mean, I think this time next year, if we're to pass, then we reevaluate.
Mayor, would
That's
there
what we
be-
have to do.
Would there be a rebate on the property tax? I was asking the mayor.
yeah,
She was
well, the
answering
mayor
that.
do it.
I'm not,
We're just guessing what her answer will be.
you're talking about this time next year, would there be a property tax rebate? I
Well,
don't
if you're
know.
going to take 2,000 out of one person's house, and the value of his house with a 5% increase on his property tax was $350, we'll say, it'll take 7 years of $350 for 1 year, 1% of the 2,000 that you took out of that person's
Yep.
pocket. So would there be a rebate on the property tax since you have 16 million?
We don't have anything right now. Having a discussion.
Because you're putting this forth. You're
So why
putting this
isn't the
forward.
discussion at a half a
You're putting
percent?
this forward, this guess.
Why isn't the discussion at half? If we're going to build from 6 million to 12 million to 18, instead of we're going to go from 12 to 24 to 36 million.
Well, maybe
Like-
you can put in your council budget 0.5% then.
Okay, we'll have a council
Zero.
budget shortly.
But I have
Or
one more
not.
thing to say. So this was never brought up before the election. And it's just interesting to me. So like, Michelle, you were up. Michelle, you were up. Michelle, you were up. Did you, when you were canvassing for votes, did you tell people that you were going to vote for a 1% tax? So I would like, somebody said you guys should go home and think, and you like to always say you want to do everything for your constituents, and you do, Ms. Danielle. So why don't you guys go home in the next week and go around to all your constituents, not all of them, but a sample of them, and see what people think and get their opinions. Because I'm going to tell you something, not too many people are going to be in favor of it. It's a terrible idea. It's not terrible for me. I quit working, so I'll pay I work a little bit. I'll pay like $50 a year. It's okay. But it's not fair to everybody else. Thank you.
I'm back again, everybody. I just have just a couple questions. 3 to 4 years ago, was this township considered to be in the red or the black before the COVID virus hit?
I think Diane or the mayor can answer that one.
What do you mean?
Well, what was the fund balance 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I
You're
don't have
asking
that
what the
number on
fund
top-
balance,
Yeah, I don't have the number on top of my head.
was the fund balance 6 million or was, David, Treasurer, what was the fund balance 3 years ago? Do you remember what the fund balance was 3 years ago? Okay. Laura, go ahead.
So
Quickly,
in
please.
2019, I believe we were around 5 million in our fund balance. We'd been fluctuating throughout the years prior to 2020. The snag is that part of the problem, so we knew in 2018 or so, 2019, that we were 5 years away from potential bankruptcy.
Okay.
We were aware of that.
So-
So my understanding, my belief at that time was that when Mayor Keffer won the election, that her administration would move us away from bankruptcy.
Okay.
Laura, that's fine.
So that was something that.
The fund
we did
balance
know
was close to
about.
$5 million.
But it was five.
So
it
that's
was
the
around
answer
5
you were looking for.
No.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, okay, and then that goes into my secondary question. Funding that was allocated to the township during the COVID pandemic, what was that total balance?
41 million.
41 million? So that was 41 million along with our regular budget that we dealt with?
Yes, we allocated 41 million, and I believe close to 18 million hasn't been allocated or spent due to some holdup.
It's been allocated. It just
So the
hasn't been
holdup is
moved.
we allocated on 11-0 vote for $100,000 per firehouse. The mayor took the electronic signatures off the checks, and she's signing them herself. She will not send $100,000 to the firehouses. This is where our paid professional firefighters live 5 days a week, and our volunteers live 2 days a week. And Gariford, they live 7 days a week to volunteer. The senior center over in Pullman Gardens, the mayor will not sign the contract. The contract has been looked at Kilkenny. They said we didn't have enough money for a 5-year plan for the lease, so the person that has the lease agreement took it down to 3 years because we had money. Also, as we're talking about the same person that leases that property, we just found out when the mayor closed our senior center last night, found out that when the mayor closed our senior center, Mr. Ron Gione removed us from there, and we're still paying till the end of the year on that senior center. And that amount, I'm not 100% sure, but we haven't been in that senior center, and we're paying the difference for who's in there now. Because it was a 10-year lease, and to get out of the 10-year lease, we still had to pay that kind of money to the person. And also, we also have $800,000 to the arts program that the mayor hasn't signed, which we all agree that the summer stage in the art program and the gateway to Safe Corridors would be in the same place as where the new police station opened up in Berkeley Square. As we all know, the mayor has held up an enormous amount of money and hasn't signed the checks where they belong. And that is where our money is.
Damn, I can't continue doing shit.
Nice language. I know.
It was 9 months. It wasn't 6 months. It was insurance and pay. Why not? Everybody rides for free here.
Can I continue?
The business revitalization as well as the parks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There
The
are two
parks
other,
program,
bills.
Councilwoman.
There's
Morgan.
2 others that she refuses to sign, and that would be the Parks and Recreation, as well as the business revitalization, which we worked really hard to get across the entire township.
We asked the mayor why she doesn't want to pay.
She doesn't like to answer that question, Mr. Santora.
Mr. Santor, the answer was that I heard was, I'll leave it up to the next mayor. And doesn't matter. So, yeah, they'll figure it out, or they'll redo all the ordinances January 10th or 11th.
Or second.
Or the 7th. As the mayor said, they're going to do it on the 7th. So you guys all can show up on the 7th of January when they reallocate all the money to lost revenue.
Which is completely illegal, by the way, just so you know. Again, you find it funny. I love that you find the citizens of Upper Darby funny.
No, I find you funny.
Well, I also would like to note that you have to stay within the budget in order, you haven't stayed in the budget.
Laura, it's a guideline. It's not a budget.
Well,
Come on,
well, it's
Laura.
weird because Solicitor Kilkenny often tells us that the budget is a suggestion.
We got a budget. Laura, we're
But if you don't
Laura,
stay
we're
in the
gonna have
budget,
our
then
own
how are
budget.
you expect to?
Laura, we're going to produce our budget at when we finish this up. So,
All right, well,
yep, we're going to wrap this up and then we'll.
So can I continue with my question?
Sure, go ahead,
Because
Ron.
everybody
Go ahead.
just started talking.
Sure, go ahead.
So before the change of administration we were moving to not being in bankruptcy. Then COVID hit, then we received additional funding through the federal government along with our additional budget, correct? So why are we going up in taxes if we already had our normal budget along with additional funding?
Because we overspent, Brian. We overspent. We built things that we thought were going to cost something, and they wound up costing another. just like we've been given free electric. If you had an electric car for the last 8 months, you could have charged for free under the township's dime. But we're going to charge $3.50 an hour now with the new ordinance or proposal tonight.
So, excuse me, because this is getting annoying with, I'm trying to talk and everybody else trying to talk. All right, so we had this mismanagement, and we talking about taxes going up. We have to do something with the families within this area. I understand mistakes are made, misspending this can always happen, but we have to fix this or our area is going to get completely worse. I see the folks that live in Drexel Hill that don't think they live in Upper Darby, 9 times out of 10, they're going to leave the area because the taxes are going to be way too high. Secondary, that means the crime is probably going to increase in our area because I'm going to be truthful. When it comes to feeding my family and being honest, there's no question to it because a person would rather feed their family. So we cannot use excuses because no matter how we feel about a situation, those situations are still going to be there in the morning. And as elected officials or leaders within the area, you still got to work on it. Thank you for answering my question.
So after Ms. Jordan, I'm going to hopefully close the public hearing.
I'll be really quick. Lee Jordan, 90 Pilgrim Lane. So I'm going to ask the mayor and I'm going to ask council to really reconsider this. You heard probably over 20 creative ideas on how you can raise funds and come together as a community. And I also don't think it was advertised long enough, because I know we're on the school board, there was a certain period of time that you need to advertise when there's going to be a tax increase. And this is affecting every single resident. It was 85,000 maybe as 100,000. So I really feel that somebody should look into some guidelines, that there has to be a time period where people know what's going on, because it is going to affect pretty much every single person who lives here. And for the residents that you heard speak tonight, they decided to stay here. I always have a saying, you take care of your own first. That's really what your job is. They decided to stay here when house values were going up. A majority of them have businesses here. They employ people who live here, who are all going to be impacted by this tax. So I'm asking you to sit back and just listen to everybody, because that's really what your job is. And you took an oath. And the money that you're getting is from all our hard-earned tax money. So give it a year, try to figure out some other way to do it. And, you know, the police and our firefighters, they should be the #1 priority in this township. They're what keeps us safe. I don't want that to be a threat to me, that if I don't pay this tax, that we're not going to have enough police officers or firefighters. That is just not fair, and that is not right for you to do.
So, Ms. Jordan, real quick, that's why the meeting is November 29th, because I believe it has to be advertised 3 times, Alexis. So that's why you saw the first advertisement.
Advertised 3 times and
Yes.
no, like, over like a 30-day, 60-day period? I mean,
It's over 21 days, I think.
21 days. Okay, so I will ask, you know, the mayor, can you send out one of your phone calls just to let people know this is going on? Because it is going to affect everybody. Send out a message. And I don't know, maybe it is on the website. I don't know, I haven't looked. But I always look at the paper because that's where I see things, but the majority of people don't read the paper anymore. So if you can go out and communicate to everybody who lives here that this is a proposal and that the vote is going to happen on the 29th, would be greatly appreciated.
Alexis, is it on the website? Okay.
So my name's Barbara Boucher. I own a design and marketing company. One of the first things I do with all my clients is, who is your audience? You have older people who don't look on the website. You have people who maybe don't have a computer. Like, how are you going to get it out? You can't just say, I'll push it out on an email. It's got to be a multifold, you know, it's got to be posters, and you need to communicate to your constituent. So who is your audience that needs to know?
Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to officially close the second public hearing to the 2024 budget. I get a motion?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Motion to adjourn.
It's the,